system that isn't working and is unfair for women.
The people named in this suit are girls. They're like 15-year-old trans girls.
Now at 5, the debate over transgender athletes competing in women's sports may soon play out in an Oregon federal courtroom. This comes as the state faces a brand new lawsuit claiming its policies violate Title IX. Good evening. Thanks a lot for joining us, everybody. I'm Steve Dunn.
I'm Debora Knapp. Oregon has already seen a lot of pushback over this policy. K2's Christina Giardinelli is live for us after hearing from both sides on the issue. So, Christina, what are they saying?
Deb, the female athlete who is suing the state says she feels that trans athletes who were born male have an unfair advantage. Now, Basic Rights Oregon, which is a LGBTQ+ advocacy group, says there's ways to even the playing field without excluding trans athletes.
The courts could soon decide the fate of Oregon's trans athletes in school sports policy. 3 female athletes like Maddie Eishen are suing the governor's office and OSAA to try and change a policy that allows trans athletes to compete in women's sports.
OSAA last year and this year have chosen to not protect women in sports.
In April, Eishen chose to sit out a competition after she realized she would be competing against an athlete she believes is trans. It's a protest she feels will protect other women.
I just think about all of these young girls in my life that look up to me, and I have a lot of younger cousins, and I just cannot stand by and think about them having to face these situations that I've had to go through.
One of her lawyers, Leanne O'Neill, says the lawsuit claims Oregon's policy violates Title IX by discriminating against women.
When males who identify as transgender are allowed to compete in categories designated for females, there inherently necessarily becomes a violation that occurs, and there is no longer the equal opportunity for the females.
Mickey Gillette is a major gifts officer with Basic Rights Oregon, a nonprofit that advocates for trans youth. She says changing Oregon's policy would harm trans kids.
This lawsuit would exclude a really vulnerable group, which is transgender kids who tend to get bullied, harassed more than their other friends, experience things like depression and self-harm at a higher level.
Now, I reached out to OSAA and Oregon Governor Tina Kotek. Both declined to comment. You can find full-length interviews with the Basic Rights Oregon as well as the female athlete and her lawyer on our YouTube page right now. For now, live in Northeast Portland, Christina Giardinelli, K2 News.
Christina, thank you. This is not the first time we've seen pushback on policies allowing transgender athletes to compete in women's sports in Oregon.
And just over a month ago, a video from the girls' track and field state championships went viral. It showed 2 athletes refusing to share a podium with another athlete who they said was transgender. We did not identify that competitor for privacy. Alexa Anderson from Tigard High School was one of the athletes who refused the podium, and here's what she told K2 in June.
I just want everyone to know that this isn't just about me or the other girl that stepped down. It's about the girl in 9th place who should have had a place on that podium. It's about the girl who didn't qualify for state because they were beat by a biological male in districts. It's about the integrity and fairness of women's sports and the fact that if we allow biological males to continue competing in women's sports, we're invalidating all the work that women have done to get us fair and equal competition.
Alexa said her actions were not about hate, but about fairness in girls' sports.
Let's take a live look at the White House right now. The debate on transgender athletes in women's sports has ramped up since President Trump took office. The issue was central in his campaign. In February, the president signed an executive order banning transgender women from competing in women's sports. The president declared with this executive order, the war on women's sports was over. The White House also indicated it would investigate schools not in compliance, threatening funding.
And we've already seen such investigations start to play out in Oregon and Washington. In March, the Office of Civil Rights within the U.S. Department of Education announced it was investigating Portland Public Schools and OSAA for violating Title IX. At the center of that investigation, transgender girls playing on women's sports teams and transgender girls using girls' locker rooms. In April, the U.S. Department of Education also announced an investigation into the state of Washington's Office of the Superintendent of Public Education over its gender-inclusive policies. Now, despite President Trump's executive order, both Oregon and Washington allowed transgender girls on girls' sports teams, and that's because state law prohibits discrimination based on gender identity.